All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you can call the roll, please.
Okay, Jennifer Harden.
Here.
Jack Miley.
Here.
Glenda Grassi.
Here.
Tom Heck.
Here.
And Steve Jeffries is absent.
All right, and all rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On behalf of the board, I would like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Board of Education held in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public comment during the meeting in the public participation section on the agenda. First up, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the June 26th board meeting and the July 5th special meeting. If I could have a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hack. Is there any discussion? Okay, call roll, please.
Jack Miley.
Aye.
Glenda Grassi.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't at the last meeting.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye. Motion carried. And that takes us to special reports.
Yes, we have a special report, our monthly meeting with ICON representative Chris Heasley. He's going to give the board an update on our construction project.
Good evening, everyone. I brought some key plans if you'd like again. I don't know if you had those left over from last time. Since our last meeting, we did receive our plumbing permit on the 28th of June, which was the Thursday following the last meeting. So now we do have our shell permit in hand with the building permit, and we'll get our full permit once the sprinkler shop drawings come through, fire alarm drawings, and kitchen hood. Those are just submittals that go through, and we should be receiving those shortly. So we'll have our full building permit probably within the next month or 2 months. Updated Madison, since last meeting, all concrete foundations are complete. We had to jump ahead and get a lot done. We were scheduled to complete those on the 25th of July, so we're ahead on that. Masonry foundations, they are all complete. Again, with having to jump ahead, as I talked last time, we were scheduled to complete those sometime in September. Underground plumbing, with receiving that, we're complete in D. It took us 2 weeks to get our approval with 2 failures and 1 approval, which we received Monday. So that has been backfilled. Our electrician is in there getting all his underground in, and a plumber is now working in area C, and that failed today. We'll make the change that he wants, and we'll get that taken care of. We're working with them, and they're also in area B, so it's moving along. It's just a struggle to get our inspections approved. They're not failing for anything, for inferior work or anything. It's just how he wants to see things done. So we will do that. And we started our buried masonry, which is what I meant by going vertical last time, in D1, which is the gymnasium, and D3, student dining. And we also jumped into the corridor of area B, which is a classroom wing, to give our masons somewhere to go since the last meeting, to keep them on site. So it's moving along pretty well out there now. We have some hurdles to jump with the plumbing, which we are, and we'll get that taken care of. We did do a schedule update, as I talked to you last time, to kind of give us a feel now, since we have our permit. Updating through May at Madison, it showed we were 28 days behind without our permit. And that was including 11 days of lost weather between May and June. Doing our update through June, we have that to 14. That will only improve with our July update. But they've been humping out there. And the work we are doing is progressing very quickly. As far as Concord goes, since last meeting, the building plat is complete. They started digging last week, Monday, the concrete foundations. D is complete in 5 days. Again, that they picked up probably well over a week in that area alone. They are in area C, and they should be in B and A by the end of the week. So we anticipate picking up quite a bit of time there. They also, Monday, they started their block work with their foundations. So that is following behind, and we're scheduled with our plumbers to come in this week Monday, or next week Monday, to start the underground. So Concord's moving right along, and it's had the benefit of, not having to go through the hurdles that Madison did. So it's going to catch up fairly quickly out there with that.
Have they shared issues with the plumbing so that we don't have the same issues in Concord?
Oh, no, it will not be anything wrong with Concord. It's the same, but then we know what he wants here, so we won't run it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You've cross-pollinated ideas and what the issues were so that Concord will not have the same
Our
issues.
first issue, what took us so long in D, is we had a trench failure from those trenches being open for as long as they were waiting for a permit, and some of the pipe got damaged. In lieu of taking out 100 feet of pipe with all the branches and risers and everything, it was okay with the architect to use a Fernco with that. The pipe's tight, the Fernco's on there, it's encased in concrete, it's not an issue. We got failed because of that, because a Fernco is not in the specs, although it is allowed per code. So we all jumped through hoops, got with the architect, got with the engineer, he approved the submittal. Then that wasn't good enough, then we got a signed letter by the architect that was approved. So he worked, that won't happen at Concord.
Okay, so just to make sure, so whatever the Fernco is, it sounds like it's a sleeve or some sort of...
Yes.
And because basically what, it sounds like what the inspector wanted was approval from the architect that...
Which he did get that.
Right, I understand, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So it was more of a formal, he wanted to make sure the i's were dotted and t's were crossed, and that the documentation was put in place, that everybody knew what was going on, and that it was...
And that was done originally, and that was provided to him, just not in the format that he wanted, so that was redone and provided in the format with the exact verbiage that he wanted on that, so the architect made sure to do that, and that satisfied him. And like I said, we wanted to make sure we gave him what he wanted. It just, he needed to be more, I guess, clear on how he wanted to present it. Because originally, how we presented it to him was, it was very formal with the approved submittal, the engineer's synopsis of what went on, where it is allowed, improved, and everything else. But that wasn't sufficient. So we would have provided him what he eventually wanted, if that's what he wanted in the first place. But that's all taken care of. And that, like I said, that's an issue that won't happen at Concord because we're not going to have trenches open for a long time. Today's issue was a miscommunication between how he wanted something, and he kept referring to on the second floor. This is how I want this. Well, we weren't on the second floor, we were on the first floor. And he said, no, it had to be done that way. And so we were all under agreement, all of us there were 4 of us that were through the conversation. And he said, no, he means the first floor too. So that will get taken. There might be one pipe, which the plumber's checking to make sure if that goes up to the second floor in the manner that he says, that we have to do a little change to that. But that'll be taken care of too. And then Concord will benefit from that. We'll just automatically get that in that way if that's the case.
So Madison will be on the bleeding edge, and Concord will be the recipient.
So we're not, like I said, we're not arguing with him. We want to give him what he wants. It's just straight. We need to know exactly, what he wants.
It's like Madison's putting first.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's why Concord's flying. Because I went through all
And
this.
it's,
So that's where we're at with that. Again, and they're working with Area C foundations, underground utilities. We have the majority of those in the south end underneath the parking area. I don't know if I told you since the last meeting, the First Energy wanted they didn't want their pole where they originally wanted it, and it changed a bunch of stuff, but that was all worked out. That's all in place. We have our trailer out there. They should be starting to stone our other parking area. So things are moving along quite well out there. And as far as I know, we keep in touch with the neighbors that we talk with, and I know there's some grumblings, but we try to keep everybody happy out there. We made sure Dana next door, we put up about 200 feet of windscreen to give her some privacy for her pool and that. So we're working with everybody out there.
So just for a sense of the progression, do you think that by the time winter rolls around, that the building will be sealed and they'll be doing all interior work, or where do you think that will happen?
That's the goal. What we are fortunate to have, and I was talking about this at the core meeting yesterday, what we have on your roofing system, there's a vapor barrier included. And I don't know, some of you are probably familiar with construction. It's almost like an ice and water shield that you would put on our shingles. It's the flexible adhesive, just generally. So normally, you're gluing your membrane down. That's weather dependent. When it's really cold, you can't do that. You're taking snow off the roof. That's not the case with this. We can seal up the roof and dry it in and worry about putting our membrane on come springtime. So we have that advantage. We can get ourselves dried in. The goal is still to have this masonry up come wintertime and have our roof on, and we're continuing in. And then if need be, we've got it covered to do tenting on the outside and continue with veneer during wintertime. So we shouldn't stop. I don't want to do your gray mason, the CMU block in wintertime. That's a little different animal because you have two sides open, where when you're doing your veneer, you already have your masonry wall and you're kind of tented against it. So everything should be up. We've got an excellent mason. I can't stress that enough. And the state even alluded to that yesterday at the meeting. If we were going to have a mason to do this, Brunswick Masonry is the mason to have to do it. And I don't know if you've been out there now just to see the quality of work that's out there.
I have some pictures stuff, sure.
But with the schedule update with Concord in May, now that was showing 41 days behind. We have that now, that we got the site under control, and that will improve come this July update now too. Talking with our scheduler, we get this, and it's in 2 weeks, we'll be updating this. You'll probably see that halved, if not more, there too. So we're dealing with, and see how everything shakes out. The delay we have because of the permits, where we're doing everything we can to mitigate that, to keep this rolling for the opening that's there.
I know we were going to cut you loose, obviously, after the presentation here, but I thought maybe we said doing old business or new business under superintendent's address, that we might talk a little bit about that tariffs, because we're going to have to get an answer to the architects soon enough. I've been asking the architects probably for about 8 months now.
Probably a year now.
About the possibility of having some type of outdoor instructional area for the kids, where you can do things like aid drops or anything aeronautically, anything with aeronautics, or putting weather instruments out there, just maybe even a place to read. And this terrace would be off the media center. And I kept on asking over and over again, and they kept on dragging their feet, the architects. And finally, back in our monthly meeting in June, we kind of had it out with them, and they finally produced the design. Now, after 8 months of asking, they produced the design. It goes to the construction company, and they estimate the cost to create these spaces, which is about 1,100 square feet. It's half the cost of a regular classroom because there's no walls or HVAC, but you have to do some things, some structural changes in the design. And they want an answer yesterday now, after asking for it.
Well, when I was asked how soon, it's yesterday, because, we're building the building.
But
that's why.
Long story short, I'm not sure how the board feels about it. We have to make a decision sooner than later, but soft costs about $150,000 per building. which is about half as much as what it would be for a regular classroom. Now, considering where we are in the budget, I'm not so sure, how the board would feel about us going ahead with it, but if we do, we have to let them know sooner than later. It's 1,100 square feet, and I think that's what the main classrooms are, right? The larger classrooms, like the music room is about 1,100 square feet.
What area is that?
It would be, can you show them, because you don't have the second floor.
Up on the second floor of Area C.
Oh, okay.
If you're looking at that, if I'm not mistaken, that would be closer to the north end there, close with B. I think that is the area without seeing the second floor. But it comes out of the Innovative Lab, if I'm not mistaken. That's where the egress is for that. And that includes the pricing with a wheelchair lift for handicap access to the terrace outside.
I think it's coming out of the library.
Yeah, it's media center.
That's right.
Innovation Lab, then Media Center, then the,
Yeah.
center.
There's a couple different options of whether you have to have it ADA compatible or compliant. Instead of having a big, long ramp in the media center, and the design had one cutting the media center in half, it looked ridiculous. That we're thinking of putting a lift in there, which is about $10,000 more. But it keeps everything tight. You have a couple steps up to go out into the terrace, and a lift for any kid that can't make the steps. It will be a unique piece. I know there are some elementary schools that have it. One in particular, I think it's Lincoln and Lakewood. It's a relatively new building. They have two terraces on either side. I'm not sure what they use them for. I did call somebody that I know that's managing that project over there, an administrative friend of mine, and he wasn't sure the instructional aspects of it, but he knows that staff uses it too. But again, it'd be a nice feature, but it also costs $150,000.
So what would the building material be and what would be underneath?
You would have, the joists would be replaced with steel beams. You'd have a metal deck with concrete poured on it, so you can still get your proper drainage and support. And there were two options, and the one that's 150, there's two paver systems. One that lays directly on the membrane. It has there's a drainage mat that's underneath it. It's called a paver system. So it would be nice. And another one was a pedestal system where they actually sat on pedestals and were self-leveling. You'd have your railings all around it. There wouldn't be any furnishings or anything out there, but you would have your access and your space out.
And what's underneath it? Like underneath?
The roof, there's nothing.
Oh,
You mean on the first
like on
floor?
the, yeah.
The ground.
Like outside?
It's the office area.
Yeah.
It goes over another part of the building, it doesn't
So-
stick out.
Oh, it doesn't?
No.
No.
It's not going to stick out, but it's going to be above.
Yes, it'll be.
So, like, if you ever had to replace that roof, can you get in there to fix it?
That's a good question with the paver system. I've never installed one. I would assume that the paver system comes up and the drainage mat comes up. It doesn't adhere to the roof, so that would come up to replace the roof.
So basically it's on the roof of another section of the building?
Yes.
Oh,
Right,
okay,
right,
I'm
right,
getting it.
right.
I'm thinking like
That I
deck,
understood,
right? Okay, got it.
I'm trying to picture so the beams would come off the wall and then like dangle and then...
No. Just picture if this was the space underneath that was already enclosed, instead of having your roof joists that were there and your
Right.
decking on it, due to the loading you're going to have up there now those joists are not sufficient to
To hold the
support
weight,
that.
right.
So those are eliminated, and we'll go with steel beams, decking, and I think it's a 2-inch concrete topping on that decking, and that would give you your structural support for the additional loading required for whatever.
But underneath there would be that rubber membrane, correct?
On top of it would be.
Oh, on top.
Yeah, so that would just be your roof
Gotcha,
structure.
okay.
And then your membrane
That's
on
good.
top. So you'd look up, if you pop the ceiling tile, you'd look up and you'd see the beams and the deck instead of the joists.
Gotcha, okay.
So then is there any other additional access to that area? Because there's already an elevator in the building. But in order to get to that portion, you'd have to put in a lift?
Yes.
It's just, to get up to the, from what I understand, to get up to the door, there's a few steps.
Yes.
And there could be a small square lift that'll, the kid can put a
Yeah.
wheelchair in and just go up.
Couldn't they build off one of the walls of the ramp along the wall?
They could, but it takes a lot of, they were saying it takes a lot of
There's a
shelf
lot of
space.
space.
It takes up a lot of space.
It has to be a certain pitch. You can't have a real sharp pitch, so.
But you wouldn't be able to access it from the second floor then? Because there's no
Oh, yes.
walkway.
Yes, you access
Do you know what I mean?
from
Like,
You get it from the second floor.
You get it from the inside of the
room.
room.
A lift to get to the roof part.
Yeah, you have, a new door would be.
Just imagine yourself being in the media center on the second floor and then walking to a door and there's a couple steps up to a door to go out to the terrace.
I'm still having kind of trouble fully understanding.
I wish I was wondering of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I
it's
guess,
just-
I mean, it all comes down to what the trade-offs are, right? And that's where I'm at, you know, I'm not exactly sure where we are with the budget, so we need to take that into account, and then it comes down to trade-offs on what it is that we would be losing to incorporate, and maybe the terrace is the right answer, but we just need to understand what the trade-offs are.
And I don't want to speak for Gary, but I think what would happen is we're going to be, you know, just for the two buildings would be $300,000 for their time.
Yeah, I do have a budget update for my update, and, you know, I mean, essentially, we're, you know, the big variable is the demolition of the three remaining schools is always the big variable in the budget, so it's one of those things where, can we afford it? Most likely, you know, it all depends on how things progress forward. But I was gonna give a full budget update and PI fund update and general fund update as part of my report, but, you know, as far as, is it impossible? No. I mean, it doesn't help the budget, obviously, but it's not like absolutely we can't do it type of place, but it's just kind of, it depends on, if it's something we want, is it worth the value? We can do it, we'll make it happen, but if we feel it's not worth it, then it's not. So.
is that cost all inclusive of all the changes that they would have to do, like run that through architectural, you know, review and whatever?
The CMR fee would have to go on there, and I don't know what the architect's percentage for something like that would be.
It should be nothing.
Well, I agree. Because they're gonna have
That's not gonna
to
be-
draw something up.
Right.
We just have sketches that really wouldn't do you justice even if you looked at them now.
And that's, you know, the pricing is based on an estimate. We'd actually have to price it out.
Yeah, the
formally.
pricing's based on an estimate, and we had that estimate based on change order pricing versus a bid pricing. We're locked in with our contractors, so you don't have that competitive bid environment. That doesn't mean the contractors aren't going to sharpen their pencils, but it's going to be a little...
Which is problematic again, because
Yes.
had we received that design prior to bidding, and it was part of the design before the bid,
Yes.
it wouldn't have cost us
You would-
another, what, $40,000 to $60,000 from the architects. I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it.
And you would have noticed, well, with how this project was bid to, I don't know what, but I'm sure it would make considerably more than that if it was as an alternate bid time. You could probably take, right off the bat, you could probably take 20% off.
That's the difference between the 306 and that $306,000, the 20% would be $61,200. So the way I look at the estimate, it should be somewhere around $244,800.
I don't know. I think I think we need more information on that. We took out, when we went through the design and whatever, and we were pricing out different things that we wanted or didn't want or whatever, we took out a lot of things that were less expensive, far less expensive than that, when we were concerned about budget. So I would, well, it sounds like a nice feature. If I'm gonna spend that much money, I'd kind of like to revisit some of the other things that we took out instead. I don't know, so it's a hard call.
Can they give us a rendering of what this will look like and a more solid idea of what the cost will be?
Well, the cost is solved for what we have. Only way to get you something more concrete is to get it out there to contractors and get the pricing, but I can't get that number without having the drawings what they're actually doing, because they're gonna do the same thing. They're gonna
Is there any way to get an estimate on, hey, if that's something that we wanted to add it in the future, if they upgraded the roofing system to make it compatible with being able to add it later?
Yeah, you can get that I mean, we can look at the estimate and see that and get everything and then leave the pavers and possibly leave the door out and a wheelchair lift and you know, just have your roof structure built up.
But that's still the majority of the cost.
But that's still gonna be a lot of money for something we may or may not do in the future.
Figure if you're gonna do it.
Yeah, if you're gonna spend that money for maybe, you know, maybe we do that.
That you get use out of it for the first few years.
So when do you need to know? When do you need to know?
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as possible, just with the construction process going, because eventually, well, very quickly, we're gonna be in that, we are in that area, going to be in that area, and then if we put up, and, you know, the cost will probably go up a little bit if the mason has to, you know, take some block down, redo bearing plates and stuff like that for now.
So, okay, so moving from here, we're moving forward, we need to get an interior rendering and an exterior rendering from Mike, right?
Yeah, for the board to see what it is, yeah. I think so.
And then you're saying the cost here is, at this point, is pretty solid?
For what we have, yeah, for what we've been given.
You're just saying you don't have all the, you don't have like the full, the drawings,
So let's look-
specs, to really know what you're really.
Right, in
out
case
there.
there's something that changed. You know,
So the
a lot of that
engineer-
pricing was based on emails come back from the engineer, hey, we're gonna do this, and that. There's no drawing showing.
Well, I'll send an email to Michael Myers tomorrow morning and ask him for that. See how long it takes.
I mean, even if you can hand sketch it, it would be something that you can see
And it's $150 per building extra.
per bill.
Yeah, I got a $306,000. 1,100 square feet per terrace. You knock 20% off it, $61,200 off.
Which is good to do that too, because it's the architect, I don't know how quickly they're gonna come up with the drawings and everything to get to us so we can,
So if they want an answer yesterday, we need to have the drawings 2 days ago, right?
I can get the pricing turned around very quickly if I know what it is.
Yeah, you guys are fast in getting that number to them, so I appreciate it. It's just, like I said, the architects were awfully slow on this. Any other questions? Chris?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for special reports?
You don't.
Okay. That takes us to old business, if anybody has anything. Or to new business. So I want to bring up for new, in new business, the other day, Jim, Gary, Jack, and I were invited to meet with Sheriff Dunlap and Gabe Trigonetti from Painesville Township to talk about the potential of safety levies and things like that, and what kind of ideas they have going forward for safety in our buildings. The town, Painesville Township in particular, is pushing very hard for us to put a safety levy on the ballot, like yesterday. We talked about yesterday, right? So I guess we just all kind of need to start talking about what we want to see for the potential of something like that. They did talk about being able to do some more services possibly for Lamouth for the future, which was a really, and not just the future, but for this school year, which was a really good thing. But we do need to start having some kind of discussions on safety levies and things like that, and if that's something we want to.
I mean, before we have discussions on the levies, we need to know what we would be doing.
I agree.
Which I think that's step number one, and I'm not sure what we are even proposing. So I think levies talk is premature.
And that's-
Well, I think if you let her finish, you'll hear that.
Okay, well, it seemed like she Mr. Levy, please, I didn't mean to interrupt you if you had more to say.
We're not
No,
there yet.
no, what I was just saying is that that was their like immediate thing, was just put a safety levy on, and we all were kind of like, no, that's not.
Right, especially now it's November, because
Right.
it's
Right.
would be impossible to do that anyways without having the time to figure out what we're doing and.
We told everyone we're not putting a levy up in November too, so
Right.
we need to stick to that.
Exactly. You know, what we did say to them was that we would talk about what kind of things we all envision as a district for what we potentially want to see. Do we feel we need more safety? What does that look like? Does it mean changing our existing buildings to have other features? Does it mean putting more officers or SROs in buildings and all that? That was more my point. It was a conversation that we should begin to have.
Correct me
Based
if
on
I'm
this.
wrong, but I think coming from Mr. Cicconetti was having an SRO in every building, having two here. There was even some talk about using the money for squad cars, and we wanted to slow down a little bit because that's not what necessarily our vision is for safety here. We already have two armed deputies here at the high school. I know it's a big campus. Our main concern this year was trying to get some type of security, more regular type of security at Lemuth. And we have the word of the sheriff that he's going to do what he can to try to provide that for us. We don't think we're going to use the same type of model for paying the SRO, at least we don't want to, because full-fledged SRO salary and benefits gets pricey for us when we're on a limited budget. But he's going to see if he can get maybe somebody in there for the same price that we pay per hour for the gentlemen that are here signing people in at the campus. There was some talk about the levy not being more than a mil, somewhere probably between 0.5 and a mil. But I think coming out of this discussion was that they wanted to see us at least consider maybe putting up a safety levy sometime in the near future. These levies were not available until this past March.
It was actually, they've been around for a couple of years, but there was a change in March that allows for financing districts, like our Lake County Financing District, to do those for safety. And Stark County is actually doing one, I think 17 districts are combined together into a financing district down there.
Right.
And they do an allocation per district, I think it's per student, that they would allocate the funds if that levy passes. It's on the August ballot. But
We wouldn't suggest doing a joint financing district. We have one already, and we prefer to be on our own in terms of managing that levy money. But
I think first that we need is to identify what do we want to do going forward, and then once we figure out what that is that something we go for another levy for? Is it something we absorb into our general funds?
I don't think it would be that difficult. I believe that, I mean, in the surface of all of this, it's an SRO in each building. I mean, that's what I'm getting out of the discussions that we're having. There's some talk about having maybe one SRO going between elementary buildings. I would say you put one SRO in every building. We're going to have less buildings, so again, here's another opportunity to be more efficient in our operations. And then you can also use some of the money for equipment, cameras, latch systems, and our two new elementary schools are all going to have that. So you have everything except a metal detector at this point, which can be later retrofitted if we decide to ever go in that direction. But at this point, we're not seeing necessarily the need for it. We want to make sure our buildings are welcoming to people who are going there, and we're doing what we can to add some technology to make the new buildings more secure. Again, which is another thing we need to look at. Once these new elementary schools are open, we have to revisit Lemuth, Buckeye, and Melridge, even though they might be coming offline sometime in the future. Maybe we can do some things with the vestibule to be able to secure it a little bit more and make those parents also feel comfortable that we're actually doing something to keep the kids and the faculty safer and the staff.
Not that I'm not a fan of safety, I just, we have to be very considerate about what we do when we ask taxpayers for dollars, seeing as how we're also thinking about, the additional need for facilities for the high school, the redoing of Lemuth, and, things that we have, we've got things planned, and those will additionally, use resources for safety and security, so I don't want to overdo and be redundant in what we ask
Right.
for, so I just think we should be planful and mindful, so we need to incorporate that as part of our
Interesting,
conversation.
because when you start to think about levy cycle and, you know, down the road, operating levy, down the road, maybe another bond, who knows? You know, at this point, we haven't, you know, picked a time or anything for that yet, but Jerry, in this report, is going to show the board that things are looking a little bit brighter for us in terms of our finances, that even, and it's a good problem to have, is the levy cycle for at least operating dollars might be pushed down a little bit further because of our more revenue and less encumbrances, I guess we can say.
Yeah, I'll go through it.
Expenditures.
More detail.
And he'll explain it to you, but it's a good thing to have. You know, when you think about operating levies and bond, again, we're going to come to those same two spots probably in the near future, about at the same time like we did this time around. If the board decides to go in that direction. Now, they can be spaced out a little bit further too. And the safety levy isn't going to, if we go that route, it's not going to be a costly levy.
Well, you know, we might be able to do some of those things that we want to do anyways without a levy, simply because we're going to be taking buildings offline. So, I mean, before we have an opportunity to explore what all that is going to look like, I mean, we need to be talking about it all at the same time and not mutually exclusive. Let's put up a levy for this when we don't even know what it might look like if we take things offline and save, because we're taking buildings down. We're going to save staff money. We're going to save a lot of things, and
Well, if that's the case, then what we need to do is this year, as we're looking at redistricting the district, we need to look at, if there's going to be capacity in these newer buildings to take an extra building off, that needs to be an option we need to look at to save money, to make that money used for protection of kids. I mean, you got to come up with something right now. From what I've seen last year when we ended school to opening in August, security-wise, at this point, right now, have we changed anything?
From what time to what time?
The end of the school year
June 1st.
till the beginning of this
Yeah, we
next?
changed design and our new buildings. I mean,
No. I'm talking about the buildings where the kids are going.
August 22nd.
August.
We're working on getting the, you know, office removed.
Yeah.
Right, that we're working on, but nothing's been done, correct?
We're waiting on the sheriff's office to get,
Yeah.
to look into that, and also.
But that's again a cost that we're gonna have to endure if we're gonna do it that way. So that's what I'm saying, if we're gonna shift money around, we need to look at all the options, and that might mean if there's capacity in the new buildings, 2 years down the road, we may do
I
that.
think we probably could close another elementary school down. We have to go through an exercise of looking at the enrollment that we have now and what the capacity is of the new buildings and estimate all of that while we're doing the redistricting.
Just
The
an
last
option.
time we did the exercise, though, we were very close to capacity. So we have to be real careful, because we don't want to ask the public to build 2 new elementary schools, only to find out later in the next couple of years that we don't have enough instructional space.
Right.
Because that would be a disaster.
I think we don't know what the impact of enrollment's going to be. Are people going to make other decisions and bring their kids back into the district and what have you? It would be pretty risky to take enrollment off, even though there's
Population
a positive.
too.
Right, but there are a lot of variables. I mean, I certainly, believe me, I'm all in favor of saving money, but it would be pretty crazy to take, say, Melridge offline 1 year and then have a surge and need to bring it back on the
Well,
next year.
I'm kind of referring to what we've been doing for the last year and a half, keeping buildings open that probably shouldn't have been open for the last 2 years, saving that money. So that's what I'm saying, when we're looking at options this year, we need to look at 2 or 3 different options, have them written down, have them decided on, so we can pick what's the most efficient for us.
I guess the 2 models, one would be is to have the 2 new elementary schools open. We decommissioned Haddon, Hale, Madison, and Leroy, and see what it looks like with redistricting. The only other, I mean, off the top of my head, in terms of the OFCC grading of our buildings, would be to take down Melridge and leave Buckeye up, and see what it looks like, with Melridge offline.
Right.
Those would be the 2 scenarios.
Well, the point in bringing the whole thing up as far as new business was just that we had this meeting, they're asking that we continue to look at how we can improve safety in our buildings, and we need to continue to have that discussion.
Plus, safety's a hot issue right now, the way schools ended last spring.
Yes.
So we need to do everything we can to make our schools as safe as possible.
I did send an email out to many superintendents in Lake and Geauga County. We meet once a month, asking them, trying to pick their brain if they've had any discussions about putting up a safety levy, or maybe not doing it as a joint financing type of district, but maybe doing it together as a sign of unification of some sorts. And at this point, I haven't received any emails that I believe suggest that anyone's thinking about it at this point. So maybe at my next meeting, I'll bring it up again to see if anyone's talking about it, and I'll have more information to report to the board.
Yeah. So just one other tidbit. So I've recently seen some data, some analysis, basically a trend, not really a trend, but a snapshot of 10 years ago to where we are today with real estate taxes in Northeast Ohio, 7 out of the 9 counties, excluding Ashtabula and Cuyahoga County. And in that aggregate, so that covers all of the political subdivisions and school districts, mental health districts, the disability districts as well. And in the aggregate, in the last 10 years, it's gone up 25% overall. Counties are different, individual municipalities and whatever are different, but 25%. And the CPI over that same time frame has gone up 15%. So our property taxes, our real estate taxes are stripping inflation. And I'm hopefully we'll see some data shortly on talking about income as well. So to Mrs. Grassie's point about respecting the taxpayer and where they're at, I know we all want to do what's best for Riverside. That's really what my exposure has been the whole time I've been on the board at 6.5 years. But I have a bigger perspective now. And we as our municipalities, we have an issue that needs to be addressed. It's not only just with seniors, because the CPI is really tied to COLA for people on Social Security, but when we get more information on income, we're outstripping income as well, I believe. And it's not sustainable. So we definitely need to look at ways of making ourselves more cost efficient, because we are quickly, in my opinion, really getting to the point where we can't afford what we have. So I would just add that into the mix, because I certainly, as I learn more, I'll be bringing it to the table, and I just want people to be aware, and that will be helping to drive my decision as well as I try to figure out how to maneuver through this pretty treacherous financial situation that we are in from a real estate tax perspective.
And then I wanted just to add, for other safety enhancements, we do have on the agenda tonight to add a new security server. We purchased one about 2 years ago. We're now at capacity because we've been adding cameras throughout the district. So now we're purchasing a second server to increase that capacity again. And then also we have the new school buses that have the new cameras on them as well. So there are some improvements that are happening as we move along, but we're obviously looking into more options of things we can do better.
Okay. All right, that takes us next to the Board of Education Committee and Liaison Reports. The first up is the Superintendent's Business Advisory Liaison. We will begin meeting again once the new school year starts. Curriculum, programming, and boosters. Mr. Malone?
We have not had a meeting so far this summer, so I'm sure we're going to get into the busy season right around the corner.
I bet you're right. Finance and Audit and Personnel Strategic Plan.
That's a mouthful right there.
It sure is.
Finance has not had a meeting. We should probably have one maybe before school starts. Personnel, we haven't had a meeting. It's combined now, but we did have an executive session for evaluation purposes, so that's sort of falls along the same lines. And strategic plan, I haven't had an update yet from the superintendent's office, so I'm assuming that that's probably going to be coming along in the fall. I don't really have anything else.
Okay. Buildings and Grounds, Operations, and Legislative.
So we did not have a meeting with Buildings and Grounds since the last meeting, but what we're planning to do is meet basically monthly, 2 weeks before the regular board meeting, so that the members of the board have at least 2 touch points on what's going on with construction. We're certainly in the heart of that, and I think it's appropriate that we have, can tap the pulse at least twice. So the next meeting that we have will be on August 13th at 4:30, and then the meeting after that will be September 10th, also at 4:30, where everybody's busy. I know the administrative staff, and I believe Chris, what's Chris's last name?
Heasley.
Heasley. Mr. Heasley's busy as well, so I'm hoping to keep those meetings to under an hour, just so that we can get an update, understand what's going on, and then move on. But we will be setting up meetings in October, November, December, and then come January, we'll have the reorganization meeting, and hopefully whatever the Buildings and Grounds Committee looks like at that point, they will continue that, 2 weeks before the board meeting, continue to meet until we get the buildings completed. So that's all I have.
Okay. And then policy and alumni, you've not met with Steve, I assume, with any new policies since?
No, we have a batch, though, that we're going through it as we speak.
Okay. It takes us to the superintendent's report.
Okay. Hey, this time of year, we're usually pretty busy with personnel, and we didn't really have a big turnover this past year. So we haven't been bringing a lot of people to the board table to hire. Instead, we've been working a lot with facilities, and there's a lot of good things going on. We have a lot of projects, not major projects, so to speak, but a lot of projects that will have an impact on what the building looks like, the aesthetics of the building, particularly Riverside. And slowly but surely over the course of the last couple of years, we've been getting some of these projects done. We've been pacing ourselves out through the PI levy. And again, last year we had the field, made the stadium look great. We have a couple of good pictures to share with the board. This is as you're driving in.
Looking very good. Finally, did you do a victory lap on it?
Those are just renderings, those
It's
are.
not, that's reality, that's reality. You can't walk on it.
I told my football team there, we took them in for helmets, I said, anybody puts their foot on that asphalt.
I was standing out there as I was pulling in. So on the right side is Mr. Werner's legacy. For the past several years, he's been wanting the blacktop.
Yes.
But he did really clean it up nicely.
It does, it looks sharp. It looks
Now,
very sharp.
inside the transportation garage, they don't have as much storage as they would like. That's why we have those 2 beat-up old bins there. We're going to get rid of those. And there was some discussion about using part of John R.'s gym. The locker room was cut in half, and there's a storage area back there. And anytime I've gone back in there, there's been band equipment and some phys ed equipment. And now that we have the team locker room on the other side, because we split it in half, we really can't use the locker side, because girls need to change in one side, boys change in the other. But there was a bin there that we could have put some transportation parts and tires and things like that, because the tire corral is now gone.
But the tires are still there.
So I walk into the thing a couple days back, and it's all cleaned out. The band is now using the area underneath my office, which was the stopgap for the lifting,
Right.
right? Which I can't even go down there. I think they changed the key. I wanted to see what it looks like. Can't get in there. And the bin in the side of the building is football stuff. So I turned to Pete and I said, I didn't know they were going to use this for football. Who gave him permission? Pete looked at me and he said that I didn't know that this was I didn't get permission either. And then Dan goes, well, did you want to ask me if I knew? And I said, Dan, he goes, I knew it the whole time. So he's the one that's utilizing that area. The plan is to put a small, newer shed now out there for the transport, for our mechanics to go over. There was some discussion about doing it across the parking lot, and we don't want the guys walking to get parts. So we're going to put something a little bit better there. I think it's to the tune of, there's some options, but it's like a $12,000 large shed. We'll be bringing it to the board sooner than later.
So did we pave the area between the gym and the?
That was done last year.
It's been 3 phases on this, and this is the last of the drainage issues. and this was to clean it up, and now Mr. Kalis is gonna make a decision on what are we gonna do with that beauty. I say leave it the way it is and don't put a thing on it.
Amen, Dan.
But again, I'm a realist.
You know there's gonna be buses there.
No, there isn't gonna be a bus on that, Jack.
Jack's right.
I'll bet
You know, buses are going through there.
I'm behind you, Dan, I'll lay out there with you.
This is at the request of Mr. Hack. That piece of wood up there was horrible. It was rotting and everything else. I was a little concerned when we had the company come out to do the work on it because there were bird nests in there, and I don't want to be anywhere around the campus when birds were falling out of nests. Luckily, we had one nest, 2 small birds, and when they went up there, the birds flew away. That's the story. No, they flew away. A lot of bees nests up in there though too. But the company that is doing, it's Newsom, right?
Nuisance, correct.
It's a company, a former graduate, I think in the 90s.
Yeah.
But they're doing a nice job around here. But they did all the way around, they painted the top of the entranceway to Riverside. And I don't know if you remember what it looked like, it was in terrible condition too. And this area too. What's interesting, this picture was taken a couple days ago. You can see the cupola is still not in good shape, but if you drive by it now, I think the front of it is at least clad in the vinyl because they were working on it this afternoon.
I pulled in for football and they were up in the air and I'm like, you guys are maniacs. I don't
Yeah.
know how they're up there.
They have a lift up there, and they're not on the roof. It looks pretty good. The floor was painted in the auditorium, and we put in a kind of like a beadboard in front of the stage.
Yeah.
Cleaned it up a little bit. Painted the auditorium as well, and now we're looking at trying to restore, replace the felt that's in there, right?
We had some issues the way that it was installed, and it's gonna cost us a few extra bucks to do it the right way, get some plywood, and then we're gonna put a material across the back of it, and that'll be the last piece of that puzzle.
Where's that?
In our auditorium,
It's the back
Riverside
wall.
auditorium, the back
All
wall,
the felt is peeling off in the back.
it was horrible, faded out. So we tried to give it a big facelift this summer, was one of the goals.
Oh, it's at least 10 years old, if not 20.
20-ish is what I can find, the last person that may have worked.
Well,
on it.
whenever they did the rolling walls, they felted the back. So whenever that was done,
Yeah, it's the back part.
I was still over here at that time, so it was in the, right around
See, that I didn't know.
2000,
That was like the ice
98.
age.
Okay.
They were painting the top
Your kids
too.
weren't even born.
And inside the rolled area, some kids must have tossed some things. They found an old bun that was like hard as a hockey stick right there.
Nice.
It's looking sharp.
We also had some work done behind the home stadium that, I don't know if you remember back there, we have some of our football teams, freshman team used to practice on it. And
Yes.
yeah, they-
Freshmen used to be on it, varsity was on it for quite a while, and now 8th grade, and we're also moving the Riverhawks over
Yeah.
from,
Right in between, I'm sorry, please go ahead. I thought you were.
no, it's all right.
No,
I'm just saying, we opened this up now with the idea of getting the Riverhawks and the community to be able to use this facility, plus the far backfield, we did some work with Merritt.
We extended the field to make it larger, it's almost the size of a regular football field.
Yeah, I had laughed. I'm like, oh, my son is finally in A this year, and I was like, oh, we're gonna get the good Lamouth field and be off the baseball fields. Nope.
So is everybody out with all the relevant stuff? Because I have something irrelevant to say.
Okay.
In between that field and the fence is where the old cross-country course used to go. I ran that many times in many meets. So it's good to see that, we're trying to figure out how to keep it in use.
Well, this, it's been something that Jim wanted to do, and myself, once we started talking about bringing the community over and more people, we gotta upgrade our facilities.
That's another shot of it there.
Those goalposts will be coming out, Jeff's gonna pull those out, the old ones.
Goes to.
Well, it'll be a lot better for the kids though, because I mean, playing on the Lamouth baseball outfields it's
It's
just,
not what we wanna do.
no.
The only thing I haven't really discussed it yet with the Riverhawks or the Baseball League, but we all spent about $2,500 a year to maintain that property, so
Right.
I don't think Riverhawks can maintain the property with $2,500 if they're coming over here now, so will be on the hook for a little more with the baseball. Baseball's done quite a nice job over there, keeping
Yeah.
those fields maintained. There's 9 fields over there, and they look pretty good. The Concord property, over there a couple days back, and they started digging at probably one of their footers, and they hit something, and they had to dig out all the garbage in there, because that's what they have to do. This is just a small portion of it. The hole that they dug was probably 30 by,
It was 30 feet by 50 feet, 10 feet deep.
Yeah.
Oh my
And they
God.
took out several dump trucks of tires and
Tires,
trash
yeah.
and all that
How
stuff.
much did that cost us when they haul?
We don't know what the cost is yet, but I'm sure.
Not free.
that free.
what
Yeah.
was interesting
Especially
about this
tires
too is,
nowadays.
when they were moving dirt around, they had to take some dirt off of the site early on, and I didn't know this until I was over there, that the resident directly next door to us, whose house faces us, had contracted with the company that was removing the dirt to bring the dirt over to his side and build a mound, which was kind of interesting, that they just would take the dirt and go up the drive and I guess dump it over there. That's not how it works.
That's very creative.
I guess so.
We get a credit for that on our bill, right?
So,
They're all about credits.
this is, I'm standing in the southwest corner of the property, not obviously in the STS field.
That's Concord?
That's Concord. And what Chris is saying is about the footers, what they do is they dig down about 4 feet, 6 feet, something like that, and they have 4 feet worth of concrete in there. And they put the footprint of the building, and then they build cinder block on top of it. And that's kind of where they are right now, when they were saying that those certain areas have the footers, and they have this big rebar standing up too. And once they put the footers down, they fill it with a type of mortar to make it more solid than it would be above ground. And that's Madison. That was a few days ago too.
Cool.
Isn't that nice?
Super cool.
I believe that's the gymnasium right there.
It's exciting.
Yeah. It is really neat because just a week ago, there was only, 2 layers of cinder block, and now they're already building a wall that's about 20 feet tall. And those guys are really working hard over there too. But it is exciting. I mean, we have a lot of things going on. I would suggest to the board, if you have any extra time, go over there. They're very welcoming. I mean, go walk around. If you go to Madison Avenue, you pull into the drive, and it loops all the way to the back, and to the northwest corner of the property is where the trailer is, and one of the guys is over there, Chris Heasley, has been over there for quite a bit, but now he's moving over to the Concord site. The Concord site, where the trailer is the far southern part.
It is, I saw it. That's where it was yesterday.
Right,
when I
yeah,
drove by.
it's stayed.
And they'll take you around, they'll show you around, and it's interesting how they put all that together. I think we're also getting a camera system too, Gary.
Yeah, they should be having that up, hopefully within the next week or two, to
The time lapse.
the time lapse and a live feed that we can put on our website.
Very cool.
Wear the right kind of shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very dusty. It is dusty.
Maybe it would be nice if we could schedule organized little tour for the board members, like just on an occasional basis, just so that we don't keep, hey, I'm gonna go, you're gonna go.
That'd be
I'm
great.
gonna go. Do you know what I mean? That way we don't waste all of their
Yeah.
time 5 times a week, like.
We can talk
go
about
see.
sometime maybe in the evening.
Just, anytime, even if it, whatever, just so that a group can go, so they only have to say it once.
Yeah.
Like, periodically. It would be kind of cool.
It would be.
It's just like any other house too, when you're walking, you look at the footprint, you're thinking, boy, this is really small. But, once it's up, it always seems to be bigger.
Yeah, when you look at Madison, compare it to the building that's already there, it's like this building's a lot bigger. You
Yeah.
can really
Oh,
tell.
that's gotta be a neat way to see it.
It also gives you a perspective when you stand close to where the gymnasium is and look towards the road, how much more space there will be for parking and traffic flow. Yeah, it's neat.
Nice.
The only other thing we have is, we wanted to share with the board a couple of colored, what is it, fascia bricks?
Yeah, the block for the outside.
So,
He can pick those up this time.
the whole color scheme is supposed to be one dark and one light. And this is the dark one we thought we would use. I think it is the
Do
same
you want me to
one.
hold that one so you can show the other two?
And I kind of get your opinion on these two. This is the one we're kind of leaning towards because
See,
it's less
this one,
yellow.
you can barely tell the difference.
I was gonna say that.
You can
One's more
tell it.
brown.
Yeah.
One's more
That's
yellow.
more brown and that's
Yeah,
more
so
gray.
look, when you do it like this, you can see. I need that back.
Do you really like the one right?
I like the left.
So I'm not
So at the
going
right.
to. This is exactly why I said to Jim, let's just show them what we think.
That's our opinion, nothing.
Which one do you want?
Because you did exactly what we all did. And so I think this looks a little bit yellow. And that is, I will tell you, Jack, if you remember, and Tom, when we were going through the designs, and remember when he did the renderings for us and he put them up, and he's like, now these aren't exact colors, but they were very yellow. It bothered me. And every time I look at this, all I think of is, oh, if it starts to look yellow, it's going to drive me crazy. So that's just something that sticks in my head. What I haven't done, or what we haven't done, is taken them outside and kind of laid them out in the sun, because that's probably truly how we need to look at them, not under fluorescent lights, you know what I mean? So that's my only thought. I don't necessarily feel strongly one way or the other. I just really feel like that one, again, like I have that yellow
That
issue.
is a more yellowish tint
Yeah.
than that. That's
And
why.
that's the only reason.
And the reason I picked the left is because I felt the contrast to the dark,
Is
to
more
me-
pronounced.
yeah, than the
Okay.
yellow.
I don't really care.
Right, I mean, there's no wrong decision here.
Yeah,
so
they're both right.
What I mean, I did like the yellow, and again, we're not seeing it in its real, in a natural light, but I do think that the yellow, the one on the right is a warmer feel to it.
Just so you know, once
This
we
is more
pick
of a
them
harsh-
and you guys
harsh.
say which one was it, I'm gonna say, which one did you want? It's that one. Because once they're not next to each other, you don't tell the difference.
I don't even care that much.
So, but this is gonna be the dark color.
Great.
This one for sure we know. This is the
You
keeper
don't
for
care?
sure.
What do you like, Jack?
I mean, I like that one, but I don't care
You like
like
this
enough.
one better than that one?
I don't care.
And Tom, you like?
I like the other one, but again, we're not seeing it in an actual natural
We
light
get a building,
environment.
that's
So
all I care.
That's right.
I think we get that 1850 penny and we flip it and see what it goes.
There you go. Thanks for showing us. We were really helpful with that too.
Yeah, right.
Like I said, just.
It's like if you ask your kids, where do you want to go to dinner? And they all say something different, so hey, all
Red
good.
Robin,
They all say food.
endless fries.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Plotko.
Okay, I have several updates tonight here
Super.
for us. June 30th was the end of our fiscal year, so there's a lot to review. So I'm going to start off with our monthly financial report that I prepare each month and then post on our website after the board meeting. And I'm going to go kind of quickly through this, just to save a little bit of time.
Good.
I'm just going to flip through our bank reconciliation. We're maximizing our Star Ohio balance to get, right now Star Ohio is paying 2.05%,
Wow.
which is
that's pretty
the
good.
highest
That's
it's been in well over a decade probably. So it's pretty exciting to get excited about 2%, but there was a time where I had to get down to like 0.06 at one point back in the recessionary times. Just to kind of flip through our fund balance report, we ended our general fund with just shy of $8.9 million, which is actually the highest cash balance we've had. I can go back to 1995, that was the highest we've ever had. We have about $35 million in our building fund right now. We'll go over that budget a little bit later because most of it's encumbered. And as you can see, all our balances are positive, which, to be in compliance, they have to be positive, and that's where we're at as of June 30th. Appropriation summary, you always want to see positive numbers here. There are a few funds that have negative numbers, and that's because you don't appropriate for advances. So I have a little note here. Whenever you advance to a fund, you return that advance, you're not really appropriating for it, it's just a temporary allocation of funds. So that's why these show as negative, but they're not non-compliant. We're within budget. It's because of those advances for cash flow issues that we did throughout the year. I'm going to skip this report. We'll go right to our revenue report for general fund, and it's property tax came in a little bit higher, because of the changes in tax law and income tax law, the change of the standard deduction. A lot of people prepaid their taxes in calendar year 2017 in December for the year. So we had a little bit of spike in our first half collections. Public utility jumped significantly from my original estimate, and we're going to go over that a little bit later because there's a little issue that we're looking into there. But you can see just from the right-hand column, most of my estimates from these estimates I don't update throughout the year, it's just what I estimated in July. When I do the forecast, I update things differently. But as you can see just from last July's numbers, in almost all categories, we hit 100% or higher in most of our revenues. Casino revenue came in a little bit higher than expected. Poverty-based assistance came in much higher than expected. Catastrophic aid is always a big unknown. We usually average between 300, 350,000, but it's all dependent on the other 609 districts in the state report for their catastrophic cost. So it's always kind of an unknown. We estimate about 320,000. We got closer to 350,000 in on that line item. Just to point out some bigger items, interest revenue. We blew our estimate way out of the water, 30,000 what we estimated. We came in at 111,000 for the year. The Medicaid, as we mentioned several times before, we ended the year with $759,000 in Medicaid revenue. These are all those cost report settlements from 2011, 12, 13.
Can you duplicate that every year?
That will not be duplicated again.
Yeah, too bad.
So we were settled through 2015. We submitted 2016's cost report. That will probably come sometime in this fiscal year. It's like about 150,000. That will come, probably not for another 9 or 10 months, I would guess, but we never really know because Medicaid never pays timely on their cost reports. And we had some. The advances are overstated because we did the advance, the permanent improvement fund, if you remember back in November, December, that we returned in March. So it kind of overstates our revenues there. So that's why it kind of looks a little funky. They had those Medicare refunds. So overall, we came in 108% more in revenue than we originally estimated at the beginning of the year, based on all those unknown factors at that time.
Is it a reasonable assumption, going back to the top line and the real estate taxes, that we'll see a slight deduction this year because of that, people having prepaid? So you think it would be, we were a plus 2% more or less. You think it would be at 98% or so of your estimate next year?
Well, I will adjust the estimate, but basically we'll get less collection. But what muddies it is with the passage of the operating levy we had in May of last year. This fiscal year, we saw the first half of that, and so there's going to be an increase in revenue next fiscal year.
Multiple things happening at once.
It's a smaller increase because we had more of a collection because the property taxes are on a calendar year and we're on a fiscal year basis. So it makes it extra confusing to predict, but we'll see a little bit of a dip from where we would originally have estimated because of the timing difference of people prepaying that would land in the previous fiscal year to this fiscal year.
Perfect, thank you.
And then for expenditures, just to go quickly here, salaries came at 99.1% of what we estimated. Benefits came at 98.7%. The purchase services came in at 89.9%, and supplies came in only at 74%.
What do you think's driving those numbers?
The purchase services, a lot of that was from the closure of ECOT because of the community school deduction that comes out of our state funding. That changed about $300,000. So that deduction was reduced. So we saw an increase, basically because of that. And then also there was we participate in the Mentor Cares program, and their June billing didn't come until July 3rd, which is like $125,000. So we saw an increase in our encumbrance at the end of the year because that purchase order was outstanding and it gets paid in July, which is now fiscal year 2019. So those are the two main driving factors, but obviously there's lots of pieces.
So this is payments and that doesn't include encumbrances?
Right, this is just payments that not include encumbrances. And then the remaining items pretty much came in where we expected. So I'm going to close out of here. These get posted to the website every month, and they're on the treasurer's page. So you can always refer back to them. Now for the formal slideshow here, if it works. There we go. Just wanted to throw it out there about the OSBA Capital Conference is quickly coming up. We typically get the registration form sometime this month. So It's November 11th, 12th, and 13th, Sunday through Tuesday. They shortened it by a day, starting with last year's conference. And Mrs. Harden's going to be presenting improving the board union relationship on the 12th at 2:30 p.m. with Mr. McIntyre and Matt Ozinga. And then we'll have to, probably in our August meeting, appoint a delegate and alternate for the OSBA annual meeting. And so I will need to just know who will be attending the conference. Let me know, check your calendars, who's going to be attending. Obviously, Mrs. Harden's going to attend, but who else will be attending, and then we'll have to pick a delegate and an alternate for that meeting, and we'll approve that in August.
I think I'm presenting as well, but I don't remember what day.
I think you're on Monday also, aren't you? Or Tuesday. I feel like you're on
It's
Tuesday.
probably Tuesday, because I think when I saw it, I was like, oh, Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I'll let you know what it is.
Mr. Heck had the question last board meeting about the construction change orders and what we were authorized to approve. We have not had a change order yet, so it was it wasn't fresh in our memories. Only back to what we approved back in March. And the resolution says that the treasurer is authorized to sign a change order in an amount not to exceed $25,000. The treasurer and superintendent combined may jointly sign a change order in an amount not to exceed $50,000. And then the treasurer, superintendent, and board president are authorized to sign change orders that not to exceed $100,000. There's an aggregate total of anything over $100,000 change order would have to come to the board, but it's aggregate capped at $200,000. So if we had a couple little change orders for $10,000, $20,000, I can sign off on them. But if we have a bunch of change orders that add up to $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, we obviously have to bring those to board approval. And the purpose of this was to help expedite things when something comes up. And we don't have a board meeting scheduled for several weeks. So for example, the next one is not till August 28th. So if something came up between that they needed an immediate decision on, it allows us to move forward. We will obviously be updating on change orders as they come about. There are between 8 and 10 proposal requests from the architect to the construction manager, change orders based on, there was like the moving of the light of the First Energy post. There's in Concord, the downhill sign is right where the driveway comes out, so we have to relocate that. There's some changes, plumbing changes based on the permit issuance, and just little changes here and there, any type of design change that we made, some tweaking to so they're getting prices in. We'll be deducts on, will be an increase. Hopefully, I'll get most of those later this week or early next week, and then I can start updating the board on where we stand on those and keep track of this further. Interest income for fiscal year 2018. I went over this last year, so I figured I'd go over an update. General fund, $111,000 in income and interest income. The bond retirement fund, we have some extra funds there from the bond issuance. For the debt payments, we made $18,748 there. The lunch fund, $620. Latchkey, about $2,700. The joint financing fund, $1,700. The PI fund, $10,851, and then there's a Hershey Montessori fund that will no longer exist going forward. We got made $205 during the time that we had those funds. So basically, $146,000 is where we came in for the year on the district managed funds, and then with the bond construction project, another $452,000 was earned on the project fund for just shy of $600,000 in income for the year. Comparing it to previous years, on the right-hand side, obviously, between the increase in interest rates, the increase in utilizing Star Ohio, and some of our increased balances right now, substantially increased our interest income for the year.
What's in our bond retirement fund that's making that?
That's for the debt payment. When we issued the bonds, there was a premium on the bonds, so that goes into the bond retirement fund to pay for the debt payments for the construction projects.
Okay.
And I'm assuming the $450,000 from the bond, that has to stay in the construction area, correct?
Yes.
It's a capital money.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good. I mean, some of it's serendipitous, and other, I'm sure of it is good work. So that's terrific.
Now, the one revenue item I wanted to talk about was public utility personal property tax. When I did the 5-year forecast in May, we had the increase in real estate taxes based on the change in tax law, but we had a spike in public utility as well, and I kind of just wrote off the time to some type of tax law change or something, didn't really look into it, but then, as much as I should have, And so when we closed out the year, I was looking at it some more, and I'm like, it's more of a jump than I would have anticipated. So on the left-hand side, you will see our history. In 2012, we received just over $1 million, and in 2013, 1.1, then 1.2, then 1.3, 1.3, 1.4, and then in this fiscal year that we just ended, we received 2.1 million. So that's a 48% jump in income, and it's like, that's unusual. So I originally had estimated about 1.5, and we had the passage of the new levy, but it wouldn't account for anywhere near that type of an increase. So I originally thought it was a collection split issue, so 2019, I only predicted, I've reduced my estimate to 1.1, and then back to 1.7, 1.8 going forward. To keep the kind of the trend going, I thought it was just a collection split issue. Well, now that looking more into it, on the right-hand side, you can see our Schedule A valuations from the county that they provide us. And you can see it's historically been around 20 million, 22 million, 24 million, 25, 27, 29 in 2016. It jumped to 49 million in 2017, tax year 2017, which is collected in 2018. So it's a 65% jump in the valuation. So I've been trying to, on the right-hand side, put the millage down because the public utility collects at the full voted millage. So you can see how the millage has gone throughout the years. But between that jump in valuation and the jump in millage, our Schedule A estimated revenue for tax year 17 is 2.8 million. So remember, tax years are different than our fiscal year, so we saw half the spike. In this fiscal year, we'll see the other half the spike coming up. We're trying to get more information on what that $20 million spike in valuation, and there's one of the public utilities, American Transmission, Inc., which is what they own the transmission lines for the power plants. In Leroy Township, their valuation jumped from 2.4 million to 20 million. So that made up most of the increase. We can't get any more information at this time. I reached out to our previous treasurer to see if he was aware of everything that was going on. He was not aware. I talked to the county. They get the numbers from the State Department of Taxation. David Rose, one of our attorneys, spoke to Public Utilities Commission and Taxation Department. They won't release any information because it's not public record, basically. It's based on their tax returns, and public utilities information isn't really public record. So we can't really seem to get any information. So Mr. Rose is reaching out to American Transmission Inc. to see if they'll disclose what this is. Is this something that will be sustained going forward? Because if that valuation holds at that $49 million level, our annual revenue is going to be around 2.8 million each year. So that would put my 2019 revenue understated by 1.7 million, and then 20, 21, 22 million dollars a year that I'm understated based on that jump that we have no information on why that happened.
A little bonus for us, but could it be, is there any way that could be just wrong?
And that's what I was wondering too,
Right.
because the county gave me their spreadsheet and it lists every political subdivision in Lake County, and in the city of Eastlake, they had a $23 million decrease. In a decrease in valuation from American Transmission Inc. So I'm like, was it an error that it's in the wrong district? Did something happen?
Was there a tax abatement that expired or something that
Should it have been
Yeah.
ours all along? And
right?
Yeah,
that's the other way of looking at it.
Right.
Right,
I mean-
yeah. So it's a very interesting change. The county, they said that they typically get the numbers from the state around the first week of October, maybe second week of October, and it's like, well, it's, I had an updated forecast in October. It's kind of late in the game to get the numbers, but they're gonna, as soon as they get the numbers for tax year 2018, they're gonna give those to me, and we'll see where that falls, and, is it something I should be projecting going forward, or is it a one-time thing, or was it some type of error? We really don't know all that much information.
so if they're changing that valuation for us, then every other taxing district that company is located in Leroy is going to see the same tax increase, and maybe we can get together with those folks, like your library district and your township, and they're all going to be seeing the same bump
Yeah,
in
because
revenue.
looking at because I have Leroy Township
Right.
Schedule A's, and they went from, their public utility income was around 118,000, and now it's projected at 300-some thousand. So they got a good 200,000 increase in revenue as well.
So maybe they might be thinking the same thing, so it might be a
They won't even do their
conversation,
road tax.
right? Like,
So
for
we're-
more than just one person, I guess.
Yeah, so we've been monitoring it and, trying to get some information. Hopefully Mr. Rose can get us some information directly from the company to find out what is going on, because that could be a significant change in our forecast for the good. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but,
Right.
I don't want to go ahead and change the forecast and say this is going to continue going forward, because it's going to be,
Plus, if
Need more solid
if that's the
information
power lines, and they actually do end up closing the nuclear
Exactly.
plant, then their power lines are worthless.
right. And that's the thing, how does that relate to all that? And
Right.
where we get the information from is challenging. You can see historically it's usually normally just a level revenue stream, and it's just kind of odd that happened. I even found I had a Schedule A from 2002, I think it was, and the public utility valuation was still in that $19-20 million range. From 2002. So it's just kind of interesting that it all of a sudden had the spike.
I'll bet you.
I'm sorry.
I'd rather underestimate
tax
our 5-year
abatement came
forecast than
off,
overestimate it,
Because that's
obviously,
part of
right?
the reason that CE is fighting to just get more help with the nuclear plant to keep them open.
So speaking of 5-year forecast, how did we come in compared to our May update to the forecast? These are the revenue lines here. We kind of already went over some of the things. We came within 0.74% of what we estimated. We estimated 46.5 million. We came in at 46.8 million. Some of that was we got a little bit more catastrophic cost aid than we expected, based on what we filed for. We also got a little bit of spike in fee payments at the end of the year, kindergarten tuition for next year being paid early. Little things like that made up some of that increase as well. On the expenditure side, we came in 1.27% lower than we expected. The biggest drop obviously was in purchase services because of the $125,000 outstanding bill for Medicare's, plus the changes, additional decreases in the community school deduction from the ECOT closing, and just some other miscellaneous items there. So between coming in higher on revenue, coming in lower on expenditures, our cash balance ended up at just $8.9 million, as opposed to the forecast amount at $8 million. So about 11% higher than we forecasted just from May. And our encumbrances are 140-some thousand higher because, once again, the Medicare's program makes up 125,000 of that. So if it wasn't for that, we'd be very close on the encumbrances. Obviously, encumbrances get paid the next fiscal year, so it doesn't really change the forecast all that much, but it's just kind of an estimate where we ended the year at. And then I already went over monthly reports. So I have two more updates for us because with the discussing the rooftop terrace, I wanted to give another update on the bond construction fund and the permanent improvement fund. Let me pass out this report here first. Basically, what we're looking at, this is the same report I gave back in May, just updated. At the very top, we have our current cash balance of $35,348,000 for our building fund. That includes the interest revenue we received on all that. That listed all of our outstanding purchase orders, which includes the architect contract, the construction manager contract for construction, commissioning agent, tree removal, asbestos testing for Madison demolition, some materials testing, Riley legal expenses, all that stuff. So our total outstanding purchase orders are $34.3 million, which leaves an unencumbered balance, basically an available balance of $1,034,000 left in our construction fund. But we have other expenses that have not been encumbered, so the next page and a half lists those as far as demolition for Madison Avenue and abatement, $343,000. We have about $60,000 set aside for utility installation fees, tap-in fees, any else miscellaneous things that might come up from that. What those will actually be, we don't really know, but for $60,000 is kind of just our guesstimate for right now. We still need to bid out the furniture for the 2 buildings. They will still need to go through design, so the budget, I think right now is at $450,000, but I put $550,000 just to have a little bit of a cushion for, in case things come in higher. So that's per building. So there's factor in $1.1 million for that. And then on the next page, just some adding to the budget. Investments that will mature between July and December this year will bring in another $267,000 in interest that we know for sure. And then we estimate it's about $105,000 interest on those investments as they mature, reinvesting at even higher rates. So we're adding another $373,000 through the end of December. I'm not factoring any interest for 2019. We know we're going to get more. We just don't really know what that is at this time. We'll kind of update that as we go along. So that puts us at an over budget of about $100,000 when we factor in those estimates of where we think they're at. And then I also listed the architect recommends we have a contingency of $300,000 per building. Most of the time, those contingencies are used for site work, unknown soil and site conditions. We're getting close to finishing foundations, so your chances of having any major contingencies after that are greatly reduced. So we're not sure at this time. It's just a placeholder for possible changes or issues that can come up. And then listing out the demolition and abatement budgets for Haddon, Hill Road, Leeway, estimate about $1.4 million based on the architect's estimate. So our final estimated overage, assuming that we use all of our contingency, that the $600,000, assuming we have to demolish the 3 buildings, we're looking at about $2.1 million over budget. Now, if we end up selling those buildings, Haddon's appraised at $690,000 and Leroy's appraised at $130,000. We don't have one for Hill Road, but if we're able to sell those buildings and not demolish them, we can easily make up that $2 million difference. That's just the big variable that we don't know. We do have someone that contacted us that's interested in Leroy. We're going to be reaching out to them tomorrow to see what they were looking at, but by law, we have to offer to high-performing charter schools and other charter schools and STEM schools, and then political subdivisions and putting out an auction and things like that. There's different steps we have to go through for that before we can sell to a private buyer, but it's just something that we have to monitor and see if we can do something for the buildings to help eliminate those costs. So that's the construction fund updates. Anybody have any questions on that? I apologize, the numbers keep getting smaller as I go to different reports. I did not say that. This is our five-year forecast, basically, for the permanent improvement fund. So it shows 5 years of historical data from 2014 to 2018, some current year estimates for 2019, and then for 20 through 24, I have revenue estimates in there and some other miscellaneous items. So just to kind of just do a quick run through. We ended fiscal year 2018 with a cash balance of $977,000 in our permanent improvement fund. We had about $126,000 in encumbrances, so there was $851,000 left over unencumbered that was rolling forward to the next year. In this current fiscal year, we're estimating about $2.1 million in revenue. That might be a little bit low based on the public utility discussion we just had as well. By the time you factor in tax collection fees, some door replacements at the field house, some of the painting that we're doing, some repairs that we're doing. We also approved purchase of Chromebooks at the last meeting for $214,000. There's the camera server on tonight's agenda, and also debt payments for the 7 buses we financed in 2015 and the Chromebooks we financed in 2016. Once you factor in the 5 buses we're purchasing for this year, about $424,000, and some possible new maintenance vehicles around $70,000, and a possible changes at front entrance to the Luth for $30,000. I think we talked about a while ago. And then setting aside $300,000 for other miscellaneous projects to be determined for this fiscal year. We are estimating an ending cash balance of $1.6 million in PI, after factoring in the Chromebooks, the buses, the $300,000 for additional projects and things like that. Jump forward another year, factoring in the 2 debt payments for that year, another $450,000 for buses, another $250,000 for another phase of Chromebook replacements. We could have a cash balance around $3 million, but that's assuming no other projects are happening. We're gonna have more projects, but if we needed to save, my point basically is if we are gonna be over on the construction project and need to do those demolition, we can utilize the PI fund to help offset some of those costs.
That doesn't include any new buses though, correct?
That includes $450,000 set aside per year
Okay, never mind.
for
Sorry,
buses.
didn't see that.
That's at the very
Yeah,
bottom
top
of
one.
page 2.
Yeah, got it.
So, in future years, I'm always setting aside $450,000 for buses and $250,000 for Chromebooks is a conservative, higher estimate for those costs. So the permanent improvement fund is finally not running zero balances. It's finally, we're starting to build a rainy day fund, and we now have the option of, for the building projects, if we need to dip into the PI fund, we can. If not, then we can start doing some other major improvements that we need done, such as possibly transportation garage or the Luth parking lot, or any other needs that are out there that we need to get done. Any questions on the PI focus?
Just a question with regard to the other buildings, or to the buildings that we are ultimately going to have to demolish. Has there been any inquiry at all about?
I reached out to the Leroy trustees, and at first they didn't seem, well, one trustee didn't seem too interested, but he did give me a call back and said that he had some conversation, maybe we could talk. Nothing definitive. We've received calls about Leroy, or emails about Leroy. We're calling that gentleman back tomorrow, that's what the plan is. Hale Road, nothing. Haddon, it seems that the Painesville Township trustees are interested in the property behind the park. They would like to see, or at least have some discussion with the board about maintaining that as a park. And I don't see any reason why we shouldn't engage in those types of conversations. The real value in that isn't necessarily the land, it's more the land in the front, the building on it. So that's about it, really. Discussing this with Icon and Gary, even if we're able to get rid of these buildings without the responsibility of demolishing it, would save us a ton of money. And that's basically giving away a building that we have no use for. Take for example Leroy. We had it appraised at $130,000 or something like that for 13 acres. It's going to cost us, a couple $100,000 to demolish. It might be worth looking at if we can't auction it off or just get rid of it. It's just in the end, it'll save us money.
Yeah, the demolition for Leroy is estimated at $193,000. Haddon's estimated at $298,000, and Hale Road's at $927,000 because of the asbestos. Some of those, selling a building for $1 saves us money. Not that that's what we would do, but just as silly as that sounds, some of that, there's always the option if we don't have to demolish it, they could save significant dollars.
Haddon's the only one that's different. There's no use for Leroy or Hale Road, it's about 32 acres over there, and most of it is swamp.
Yeah. We did talk to Painesville Township's trustees, or what was it, Mike Mannery, that we talked to, about if they would be interested in Hale Road, and they kind of said no, so we already kind of explored that option. Red is obviously the most significant value one, based on its location, frontage on that. Any other questions on anything? That concludes my report.
Thank you. That takes us to public participation. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Education will be recognized by the Board President. Speakers are requested to identify themselves and their topic. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. All right. That takes us to the consent agenda. A consent agenda provides for a more efficient use of time. Any board member can remove a consent agenda item to be discussed and voted on individually. Finance and audit.
We have a motion to approve the items listed on the Finance and Audit consent agenda as recommended by the treasurer, items A through H. Need a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on those items?
Yes, I have a question about item F.
The security and traffic detail?
Yeah, the 9 hours a day is giving us basically 6:30 to 3:30? Are they here that night?
I'm not sure what time the deputies get into the building, but they're here when the kids are here, and they don't leave.
Well, I know they got
traffic.
they do
It's 6.
traffic in the morning, so
They-
that should be
they
like
open these
7.
doors at 6. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. They unlock these doors at 6. I'm
The
usually here
deputies?
when they do it, yes. Yeah, they would, because of one of the
So
security
it's
things
6
we
to 3?
did. 6 to 3-ish, yes. After the cars and everybody's gone, so it's 6 to 3.
Okay. I was trying to figure out.
22 seconds. Sorry.
I have a question on the net ops consulting. We're voting on that to continue their, agreement with us.
Yeah, we
We have a service provider
we
change, not service provider, but do we have like a management change
The
within?
director is leaving.
Net ops? Okay.
basically, this is, what we're approving is to allow us to do the purchase order for the year.
Okay.
Our contract automatically renews for 16-month periods, and that runs through the end of November. And we're planning on having a meeting to discuss that, because we have to give a 90-day notice if we want to make any changes to the contract. We're actually going to sit down with them to talk about that, because we want to try to get it lined up with the fiscal year, because the rolling 16 months is too hard to track. So we want to try to get the contract changed to roll per fiscal year to make things easier. So I'm going to reach out to them to have that discussion, and then we have the management change. We want to kind of discuss the transition and how things will move forward.
Other than the director leaving and someone
Yeah.
stepping in, everything else.
And we're okay with that, right?
Claire's
We're okay with that as a change, and it's like,
Well, yes, we are, but we hate to see the director
Right.
go. I mean,
Right.
he was pretty sharp, and it would have been nice to have him stay, but he has another opportunity
Right.
somewhere
Okay.
else.
all right, I was just curious, because I don't know how I noticed that. I think I got some sort of message about a contact change or whatever. Maybe it was on my text messages or whatever, because I have his cell phone number, whatever. Just curious. Okay, and then the only other thing I wanted to do is read the donations before we did our final approval, and there was a donation from, to the David R. Baker Scholarship from the Bader family, from the J. Wilson Post 112 American Legion, and from Penguin Mechanical Inc. So I just wanted to thank them. And if there's no other conversation on those, can we call the roll, please?
Glenda Grassi,
Aye.
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Jack Miley.
Aye.
Motion carried. Personnel.
A motion to approve the items listed on the personnel consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, items A through I. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And we noticed a typo on the agenda under item C for the approved tutor rate to be $22.74. It's the fifth
For
thing-
Cindy Gagan.
For Cindy
Yeah.
Gagan.
Oh,
That-
okay,
that's
the new
supposed to be
teacher
20.
training?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's supposed to be 22.74.
The 2320 is FY 19 rate.
Oh.
It's still under 18 because it's start of the year.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, if there are no other items for.
Did we have a second?
Yeah, did
Who seconded?
Jen.
Okay.
There are no other, there's no other discussion, can we call the roll?
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Jack Miley,
Aye.
Glenn DeGrassi.
Aye.
Motion carried. Curriculum programming.
I'm still catching up here for a
Okay.
second. Okay, consent agenda for curriculum and program. Recommended action, motion to approve the items listed under curriculum and programming consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, A and B. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion?
And Mrs. Blocker wanted to take a moment just to explain what this item was for the math textbooks.
Textbooks?
Yes, so
I was gonna
we,
ask if that was a typo too.
no, it is not a typo. It is indeed what they are. They are called tech books. Discovery Education is a company we already contract with. We do a lot of our video streaming, teachers use that in classrooms, and they have recently come out with an online textbook that they call a tech book. And I feel pretty strongly, and I'm not a textbook person, I'm not a program person, I believe in what our teachers bring to the table, but this is one of the best resources I have seen. We are not committed yet to purchase because it's still out to teachers, high school teachers, but we're looking potentially at the subscription is what it would be, 6th through Algebra 2. So it would be our 6th, 7th, 8th, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 classes that would be utilizing it. I feel like our elementary programming is pretty solid. We just need something a little bit more structured for our high school students and teachers. So the way the subscription runs, it's $60 a kid, which seems a lot, except it's for 6 years. So it's $10 per student a year. It's very personalized. It's very, so far the teachers that have looked at it, and Karen Wiskozik, who's our math coach, has given me really good feedback. So we're not all in yet, but what we wanted to be able to do, because we don't meet again until the end of August, is get the okay from you to purchase if we decide in the next 2 to 3 weeks to go forward with
Would
it.
this replace the textbooks, because, I mean, they get
The
a textbook,
textbooks
they
that
get
we-
textbooks in the classroom, but they don't really bring them home.
No, they don't, because we have been using the Eureka program, which is primarily online. This is actually more interactive, where teachers can get real-time information back from the students. They get a login, they can do assessments through this, we can personalize homework. I mean, it really starts to get at personalizing the learning for the students, which we have done in our English classes. I really feel this is the next step for us, and we need a tool like this for teachers to be able to utilize these devices. Just better for students. It just will be better all the way around. So that's what we're looking for, just so you know. We're probably gonna have a curriculum meeting in August, I'm guessing. And so I will be able to update you guys for sure by then. But like I said, Gary and I had talked about it, and if I get the go-ahead from the teachers, like I said, I'm not doing it because they're the curriculum experts, you know what I mean, as far as those higher level math courses go. We'd like to be able to pull the trigger.
Any other questions on that?
Any other? Okay, call the roll, please.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Jack Miley,
Aye.
Glenn DeGrassi,
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Motion carried. Buildings and grounds.
All right, motion to approve the items listed on the Buildings and Grounds consent agenda, items A and B. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Grassi. Any discussion?
So item B, we're not identifying the students, we're just declaring the route impractical. Is that this
It's
one correct?
impractical in the afternoon because there's so little ridership in the afternoon. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was one student that was going to sporadically use the service.
We do the individuals, that's later in the year, like, They have to,
Yeah,
right,
we did the payment.
Right.
okay.
Any other questions? Can you call the roll, please?
Jack Miley,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye. Motion carried. And that takes us to the Board of Education update. If anyone has got anything for that?
I would just like to wish, because we won't be here before school starts, and I just want to wish the students that have just graduated, that are moving on to all over the place, good luck and best wishes, and good luck on their moves and whatnot. Cool. It's exciting.
And I just want to recognize the continuous improvement of the exterior and interior of the physical building. It is, you know, I too often go back and reminisce about my first time on the board, or first years on the board, but it's been continuous improvement, both the interior and exterior. The photos of the auditorium look terrific, really raises it several levels from an aesthetic perspective. The work on the outside is all terrific, and just when again, we were very creative, or you were very creative in financing the with your help, financing the field and everything else. It just has been really a terrific metamorphosis to witness. I just want to recognize that again.
I swore that I would never bring up the fact that I would give the board another update on our cell tower. But I did get an email just today from Ron Gaynor, and there's 2 other forms we have to sign.
Of course.
And they're hung up on our name change for some reason. I did send it to Dan to take a look at before I signed.
Like that we used to be Painesville Township
Yes,
schools?
yes.
Oh.
Because the
Dan's
property
gonna
is
give
still
me some
listed as
guidance.
Painesville Township.
And they told me as soon as we sign them, then they're gonna start construction, which was supposed to be this summer. I was never gonna bring it up to the board because I figured I'd have a conversation a year from now. But I did get the email today.
Who would have thought the construction of the cell tower would take longer than the construction of the elementary school?
Right, that seems crazy.
And when do we have students coming back for sports and whatnot? Like, that's 2 weeks from now,
We
isn't it?
started tonight with a camp for the kids, and then on July 30th, we go for real. So
Yeah.
we fitted them tonight for equipment, and
Yeah, so like
all
2
the
weeks
kids
from
are out,
now.
and all the programs are going, soccer's outside.
Your Riverhawk starts next week.
Fun
Yeah,
stuff.
we've met with the
They're Monday.
leaders from the Riverhawks to make room over here for trailers and their equipment, and quite honestly, it's going smooth.
What
It's going-
was going on Saturday? The parking lot was full, but no one was around.
Testing.
Yeah, we were in ACT test session, and a lot of schools in Lake County did not do it, so we had 250 kids. Scott
Where were
Bayless
they?
was overwhelmed.
All
He had them
Upstairs.
all, he had to scramble around and find proctors, yeah. So it was probably super quiet, and you didn't see anybody, did you? I think they were upstairs, he had them spread out in classrooms, but that's what it was, ACT.
I was gonna ask too, Nick, about Community Kindness Day, just to give us an update on that.
Yes, it is, what day did we say it was?
Seventh.
August 7th?
Yeah, I think it's
The Tuesday.
We have, so far we have about 35 staff members. Most of them sign up last minute. It's a day when staff members go out for 4 or 5 hours out into the community and just kind of give out some candy and T-shirts, certificates, stuff like that. They'll go to parks, they'll go to parking lots, just kind of give
The
our.
previous one is memorialized right on our wall.
Yes.
Yeah, fire departments, they'll go to local businesses, sometimes they'll buy lunch for people, it's just all sorts of random acts of kindness, so, look out for a bunch of Riverside employees on August 8th. Or
August
7th,
what?
sorry.
August. It's a-
Another thing I was gonna say is August 11th, which is a Saturday, is the Concord Community Days Parade, and a lot of our Riverside groups are gonna be in that parade, so if you're out and about, I know we've got, they said 74 cheerleaders this year from 7th to 12th, they're all gonna be out there, and, our youth football leagues,
And
and
what day's preview? 17th?
16th, it seems is the
Yeah.
16th.
16th.
Well, I have so many dates scrambled. in my head.
16th? 16th.
Wednesday the 16th,
yep.
15th.
Wednesday the 15th.
At
I was
6
gonna
o'clock.
say 15th.
That's the 6,
Yeah,
right?
that's 6
4
o'clock.
o'clock.
All right, is there anything else?
think so.
All right, then it is 8:49 PM. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn to executive session for personnel matters, appointment and/or employment compensation, and economic development. If I can have a second on that, please.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hack. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Belinda Grassi.
Aye.
Tom Hack.
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Jack Miley.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for these, Jim, because these